When people think of the early days of Saturday Night Live, they picture wild sketches, unforgettable catchphrases, and a group of young performers changing comedy forever. For Jane Curtin, those years were certainly exciting, but they were also far more layered than the glossy memories suggest. At 78, she reflects on that time not with bitterness, but with perspective. She was there from the beginning, watching friendships form under pressure and careers ignite in real time. The live format brought an unmatched adrenaline rush, one that bonded the cast in ways few other jobs could. Yet, behind the applause was the reality of hard deadlines, creative disagreements, and the challenge of finding your voice in a crowded room. Curtin wasn't just a participant in a cultural phenomenon, she was a steady presence within it, observing how talent, ambition, and youth collided under the bright lights of Studio 8H, finding her place on a revolutionary show. In an ensemble bursting with bold personalities, Curtin carved out a distinctive role for herself. She became known as the straight character, the grounded presence who could anchor even the most absurd sketch. Rather than fighting for every punchline, she focused on consistency and clarity. Her goal was simple: contribute something solid each week and serve the material with honesty. That practical mindset helped her navigate an environment that could easily overwhelm. Live television demands resilience, quick thinking, and trust among cast members. Curtin learned early that ego had to take a backseat to teamwork if the show was going to succeed. While others thrived on spectacle, she leaned into restraint. In doing so, she built a reputation for professionalism and sharp timing. It was a quieter approach, perhaps, but one that proved essential to the chemistry that made the original cast so compelling. Complicated bonds and creative differences. No groundbreaking show is built without tension, and Curtin has spoken candidly about the complicated relationships that shaped her experience. Creative people working under pressure inevitably clash, and SNL was no exception. She has reflected on moments when concern for colleagues and frustration over leadership decisions created emotional distance behind the scenes. These disagreements were not rooted in cruelty, but in differing perspectives about responsibility and care within a demanding workplace. At times, communication faltered, leaving misunderstandings to linger longer than they should have. Yet, with the benefit of time, Curtin views those years through a lens of empathy. Youth, ambition, and the intensity of live television formed a combustible mix. What once felt deeply personal now feels human. Decades later, reunions and anniversaries have offered space for reconciliation, reminding her that shared history often matters more than past disputes. The culture of the 1970s. Comedy scene. Looking back, Curtin recognizes that the comedy world of the 1970s reflected the broader culture of its time, including its blind spots. Opportunities for women were expanding, but equality was far from guaranteed. Having previously worked in an improv environment where men and women collaborated as equals, she was surprised by how casually some concerns were dismissed in mainstream television. The industry was learning in real time, often imperfectly. Curtin has spoken about the importance of acknowledging those shortcomings rather than pretending they never existed. Growth, she believes, comes from honest reflection. While the era produced groundbreaking humor, it also carried attitudes that would be challenged by later generations. Today, she sees encouraging progress in how stories are told and whose voices are heard. Her perspective is not one of regret, but of awareness, a recognition that cultural evolution is ongoing and that comedy, like society itself, must keep learning. Moments of conflict and eventual reconciliation. Among the stories that have followed SNL through the decades are tales of rivalry and heated exchanges. Curtin has acknowledged that strong personalities sometimes collided, especially when former cast members returned in new roles. In such high-pressure environments, pride and insecurity can surface quickly. Yet she emphasizes that these moments, though uncomfortable, were part of a larger story of growth. Over time, many strained relationships softened. Colleagues who once competed fiercely found common ground again, sometimes collaborating successfully in later projects. Perspective has a way of shrinking old conflicts. What once seemed monumental can eventually feel like a brief storm in a long career. Curtin's recollections remind us that even icons of comedy are human beings navigating ambition and vulnerability. The passage of time allowed space for understanding, proving that reconciliation is possible even after very public disagreements. Life beyond studio, 8H. While some of her castmates pursued film stardom, Curtin chose a steadier path in television. Her post-SNL success came with Kate and Allie, where she portrayed a newly divorced mother rebuilding her life. The role resonated deeply with audiences and earned her 2 Emmy Awards. It was not flashy fame, but meaningful recognition rooted in relatability. Later, on Third Rock from the Sun, she once again served as the grounded counterpoint to eccentric characters, a dynamic that felt like a natural extension of her earlier work. Over the years, she lent her voice to animated series, appeared in guest roles, and embraced projects that prioritized substance over spectacle. Curtin's career became a testament to longevity. Rather than chasing every spotlight, she focused on craft. The result was a body of work that spanned generations, quietly shaping television without demanding constant headlines. A career of steady craftsmanship. Curtin's film appearances arrived in thoughtful intervals, from early ensemble comedies to later supporting roles that showcased her understated warmth. She reunited with former colleagues on projects that felt like creative homecomings, expanding beloved characters into new formats. On stage, she returned to her theatrical roots, performing in Broadway productions that reminded her why she fell in love with acting in the first place. Beyond performance, she explored narration and even participated in charitable game show appearances, directing winnings toward meaningful causes. These choices reveal a consistent thread: intention. Curtin's career was never about spectacle alone. It was about contributing thoughtfully wherever she worked. Presenting awards, guest hosting, or stepping into a small but memorable film role, she brought the same professionalism that defined her earliest days. Her journey illustrates that influence can be quiet yet lasting, built on dedication rather than constant reinvention. A life grounded in love and perspective. Away from cameras and curtain calls, Curtin built a life centered on family. Her long marriage to television producer Patrick Francis Lynch offered stability amid the unpredictability of show business. Together, they raised a daughter and created a home far from Hollywood's glare. That grounding presence, she has often suggested, helped her maintain balance during demanding years. The loss of her husband in 2025 marked the end of a nearly 5-decade partnership, a profound personal turning point. Yet even in grief, Curtin's legacy feels defined by steadiness and grace. She is remembered not only as a pioneer of modern television comedy, but as someone who valued intention over chaos. Her story is one of endurance, of choosing balance, nurturing meaningful relationships, and allowing time to soften the sharp edges of youth. In laughter and in quiet reflection, her impact continues to resonate,